March 15th, 2023. The auditorium erupted in laughter when the cleaning lady's daughter stepped onto the stage in her mother's hand-sewn costume, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. But 30 seconds into her routine, the mockery turned to stunned silence, and by the final beat, 3 judges were on their feet, tears streaming down their faces. What did this girl do in those 2 minutes that made the people who humiliated her beg for her forgiveness? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The mirrors in Studio C never lied, even at midnight, when the building fell silent, and the only sound was the hum of the industrial air conditioning unit struggling against the Texas heat. 15-year-old Maya Reeves understood this truth better than most. Mirrors didn't care about your last name, your address, or whether your mother scrubbed the floors you danced on. They simply reflected what was there, every stumble, every graceful arc, every moment of truth. On this particular Thursday in late February, Maya sat cross-legged in the corner of the Westridge Performing Arts Academy's largest rehearsal space, a spiral notebook balanced on her knees. The pages were filled with diagrams she'd sketched from memory, footwork patterns, arm positions, timing counts written in her neat, careful handwriting. She'd watched the advanced contemporary class 3 times this week, memorizing every combination while her mother, Carmen Reeves, moved quietly along the perimeter with her cleaning cart. The Academy's elite students had left hours ago, their luxury cars pulling out of the parking lot in a parade of Mercedes and Teslas, leaving behind protein bar wrappers and half-empty Starbucks cups. Now, in the stillness, Maya finally had her turn. She wore grey sweatpants with a small hole near the knee and a faded purple tank top, hand-me-downs from a cousin in San Antonio. Her sneakers, once white, had been worn so thin that she could feel every groove in the studio floor. But when she rose and walked to the center of the room, something shifted in her posture. Her spine lengthened, her shoulders dropped. Her chin lifted not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. Carmen watched from the doorway, mop in hand, her cleaning uniform still damp from mopping the hallways. At 42, she carried herself with the kind of dignity that came from years of invisible labor. The woman who made spaces beautiful, but was never invited to enjoy them. Once 20 years ago in a small town outside Houston, she danced too. Not in places like this, but in community centers and church basements, where the music was loud and the steps came from generations of women who danced to survive, not to perform. She had taught Maya everything she knew, but always after hours, always in borrowed spaces, always in whispers. Maya pressed play on her phone. The music, a haunting fusion of classical strings and modern bass, filled the empty studio. She began to move. Her feet traced patterns across the floor with surprising precision. Her arms flowed through positions that showed careful study, each gesture deliberate yet somehow instinctive. She wasn't mimicking what she'd seen. She was translating it through her own understanding, adding small variations that came from somewhere deeper than technique. A triple pirouette that landed solid, a leap that seemed to suspend time, a series of contractions that rippled through her spine like water finding its path. No one was there to see it, except Carmen, who had witnessed this transformation every night for the past 3 years. No one knew that Maya woke at 5 in the morning to practice in their apartment's cramped living room before school. No one knew she taught herself music theory from YouTube videos and anatomy from library books, trying to understand how bodies moved through space. The song ended. Maya held her final position, one arm extended toward the mirror, the other pressed against her heart, her breath coming fast but controlled. Carmen said nothing, but her eyes glistened in the dim light. Maya walked back to her corner, picked up her notebook, and wrote February 22nd, landing still heavy on the left side. Fix tomorrow. Through the studio's tall windows, the lights of downtown Fort Worth glittered like promises. Somewhere in those towers were the families who funded this academy. The families whose daughters filled the roster of the spring showcase. The families who wrote checks that kept places like this running. Maya had never attended a single class here. She wasn't enrolled. She didn't exist in their system except as a name on a visitor's badge that read Guest of Custodial Staff. But she had learned everything these walls had to teach, absorbed through observation and determination, practiced in the margins of other people's schedules. She closed her notebook and glanced at the bulletin board near the door. A glossy poster announced the upcoming regional youth dance competition. Auditions in 3 weeks. The grand prize, a full scholarship to the prestigious summer intensive at Juilliard, plus performance opportunities with a professional company. Maya stared at it for a long moment, then looked away. Carmen finished mopping and clicked off the hallway lights one by one. "Ready to go home, mija?" she asked softly. Maya nodded, slipping her notebook into her worn backpack. Neither of them spoke about the poster, but both had seen it. And both knew that some doors, no matter how badly you wanted to open them, were never meant for people like them. At least, that's what the world had always told them. But the mirrors knew differently. The audition notice had been posted for exactly 9 days when Maya finally gathered the courage to approach the registration table. It was a Friday afternoon, and the Academy's main lobby buzzed with the controlled chaos of weekend preparations, parents scheduling private lessons, students grabbing smoothies from the cafe, instructors reviewing competition schedules on their tablets. Maya stood at the edge of the marble-floored entrance, her backpack straps cutting into her shoulders. She wore her school clothes, jeans and a plain black hoodie, nothing that would draw attention. The woman at the registration desk, Mrs. Feldman, glanced up with the practiced smile of someone paid to be welcoming. "Can I help you?" "I'd like to register for the regional youth dance competition auditions," Maya said quietly. Mrs. Feldman's smile flickered. "Are you currently enrolled in classes here?" "No, but the poster said it was open to open auditions, yes." The woman's tone shifted, becoming clipped and efficient. "That'll be a $75 registration fee. Cash or card?" Maya had been saving for 11 months. Babysitting money, lawn mowing jobs, every birthday dollar from relatives. She pulled out a crumpled envelope and counted the bills onto the counter. Mrs. Feldman processed the payment without comment, printed a confirmation slip, and slid it across the desk. "Auditions are next Saturday at 2 o'clock. Wear appropriate dance attire." Studio C. Maya took the paper, her hands trembling slightly, and walked away before anyone could see the relief flooding through her. She didn't notice the 3 girls watching from the cafe tables near the window. Vanessa Montgomery was 17, captain of the Academy's elite performance troupe and the daughter of a woman who sat on the Westridge board of directors. Her auburn hair was pulled into a flawless high ponytail, and she wore the Academy's expensive branded athletic wear like armor. Beside her sat her 2 closest friends, Riley Chen, whose family owned a chain of luxury hotels across the Southwest, and Harper Donnelly, a TikTok influencer with 200,000 followers who documented her dancer lifestyle for an audience that worshipped her every post. "Is that the cleaning lady's kid?" Harper whispered, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Vanessa tilted her head, studying Maya with the analytical precision of someone trained to notice details. "I've seen her here after hours. She sits in the corner during our rehearsals, like a creep," Riley added, sipping her acai bowl through a metal straw. "Like someone who thinks watching is the same as training," Vanessa said. Her voice carried no obvious cruelty. It was simply factual, which somehow made it worse. Harper pulled out her phone. "Wait, she just registered for the competition." "The same one we're doing?" Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Apparently." The following Thursday, Maya arrived for her usual observation session. The advanced contemporary class was running through their competition pieces, and she wanted to see how they transitioned between the floor work and standing sequences. But when she entered Studio C, she found the entire class waiting. Vanessa stood at center floor, arms crossed, flanked by 12 other dancers in matching practice gear. "You're here every week," Vanessa said, not as a question, but as an accusation. Just watching, never participating. Maya froze in the doorway. I'm not bothering anyone. You registered for regionals. Vanessa took a step forward. I saw your name on the roster. Maya Reeves. The other dancers exchanged glances. Some looked uncomfortable. Others leaned in, sensing entertainment. I'm allowed to audition, Maya said, her voice steadier than she felt. It's open registration. Of course you're allowed, Vanessa replied, her tone syrupy and false. We're very inclusive here. In fact, she turned to the group with a performer's timing. Why don't we give you a chance to show us what you've learned from all that observing? The room went silent. Right now? Maya's pulse hammered in her throat. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Why not? Harper was already recording on her phone, a habit so ingrained it was instinctive. Show us your audition piece. We'd love to see it, several girls giggled. The instructor, Miss Rodriguez, had stepped out to take a phone call. There was no adult in the room to intervene. Maya's mind raced. She could leave. She could make an excuse. She could disappear back into invisibility where it was safe. But something in Vanessa's smirk, the absolute certainty that Maya would run, ignited something deeper than fear. Okay, Maya said quietly. She walked to the center of the floor, set down her backpack, and removed her hoodie. Underneath, she wore a simple grey tank top and black leggings. Nothing fancy, nothing branded, just fabric and skin and determination. Music? Vanessa asked, mockery dripping from the word. Maya pulled out her phone and connected it to the studio speaker system. Her hands shook as she scrolled to the track she'd been practicing for months. The opening notes filled the studio. A slow, haunting melody that built into something fierce. Maya closed her eyes, took one breath, and began to move. The first 8 counts were classical contemporary, controlled, technical, precise. Vanessa's smirk remained fixed, but then Maya shifted. Her spine curved in a way that didn't follow the Academy's rigid technique. Her arms traced patterns that spoke of different traditions, different histories. She dropped to the floor in a controlled fall, then rose through a series of isolations that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. Vanessa's smile began to fade. Maya turned, once, twice, 3 times, each rotation gaining momentum until she stopped on a dime. Balanced on one leg, the other extended in a perfect attitude that held impossibly long. Someone gasped. The music built. Maya leaped across the diagonal, her worn sneakers landing with purpose rather than apology. Every movement seemed to argue with the space itself. Claiming it, remaking it. When the final note faded, Maya stood center floor, breathing hard, her arms slowly lowering to her sides. The silence that followed was different than before. Harper's phone was still recording. Her mouth hung slightly open. Riley had set down her drink. Vanessa's face had gone pale, her jaw tight. Miss Rodriguez returned in that exact moment, stepping through the doorway with her phone in hand. She looked at Maya, then at the frozen group of students, then at Maya again. What did I miss? The instructor asked. No one answered, but Harper's phone had captured everything, and within 3 hours, the video would change Maya's life forever. Harper's video went live at 9:47 p.m. that same Thursday. The caption read, POV, you didn't know the janitor's daughter could move like this. The Westridge Academy, your hidden talent, unexpected. By midnight, it had 50,000 views. By Friday morning, 400,000. Maya woke to 17 missed calls and a flooded Instagram account she barely used. Messages from strangers filled her DMs, some encouraging, others cruel, most simply curious. Her mother stood in the kitchen doorway, already dressed in her custodial uniform, staring at her own phone with an expression Maya couldn't read. Mija, Carmen said quietly, you need to see this. The video had been picked up by dance commentary accounts, local news aggregators, and eventually a viral content page with 3 million followers. The comments section had become a battleground. This is what raw talent looks like when it's not bought and paid for. She's good, but technique matters. This won't hold up in real competition. The privilege in that studio is insane. Look how shocked they are that a poor kid can dance. Exploitation narrative. She probably trained somewhere and they're just hiding it for clicks. Maya scrolled until her hands shook, then locked her phone and set it face down on the table. At 10:15 a.m., her mother's supervisor called. Carmen was needed at the academy immediately for an urgent administrative meeting. They arrived together, walking through the same doors Maya had entered hundreds of times, but this time, people stared. A parent in the lobby whispered to another. Two instructors stopped mid-conversation to watch them pass. Maya felt like an exhibit under glass. Director Patricia Whitmore waited in her corner office on the 3rd floor, a space decorated with framed photographs of successful alumni and plaques celebrating the Academy's award history. She was a woman in her mid-50s with steel-grey hair cut in a precise bob and reading glasses that hung on a gold chain. Beside her sat Marcus Webb, the Academy's Director of Communications, a man in his 30s with a tablet and an overly enthusiastic smile. Mrs. Reeves, Maya, please, you sit. Director Whitmore gestured to two chairs across from her mahogany desk. They sat. I'll be direct, Whitmore began. The video from yesterday has created significant attention for Westridge. Our phone has been ringing non-stop, media requests, interview inquiries, even some donor interest. Maya's stomach tightened. Marcus leaned forward, radiating controlled excitement. This is a tremendous opportunity. The narrative is already out there. Undiscovered talent, socio-economic barriers, the American dream. People are emotionally invested. What does that mean for Maya? Carmen asked, her voice careful. Whitmore folded her hands. We'd like to offer Maya a provisional enrollment. Tuition waived, of course. She would be able to observe advanced classes and use our facilities during designated practice hours. Maya's heart leapt, then caught on a single word. Observe? For the first semester, yes, Whitmore clarified. This would allow us to assess her foundational technique and ensure she's prepared for our curriculum standards. It's quite rigorous. She's already prepared, Carmen said quietly. You saw the video? Marcus jumped in. Absolutely. Which is why we're also hoping Maya would be willing to participate in some promotional opportunities. A feature in our spring newsletter, maybe a photo shoot for our diversity initiative materials. We're launching a new scholarship fund, and Maya's story is exactly the kind of inspiration. Diversity initiative? Maya's voice was small but sharp. Whitmore smiled, the expression not quite reaching her eyes. Westridge is committed to expanding access. Your presence here would be meaningful. Carmen's jaw tightened. Meaningful. But not as a full student. Not immediately, Whitmore conceded. But this is a pathway. Many students would be grateful for this opportunity. The word hung in the air like smoke. Grateful. Maya looked at the walls covered in photographs of dancers who'd gone on to professional companies, prestigious universities, Broadway stages. None of them looked like her. None of them had started from a custodian's closet. Can I still audition for the regional competition? Maya asked. Marcus and Whitmore exchanged a glance. Of course, Whitmore said smoothly. Though I should mention we'll be sending Vanessa Montgomery as our official academy representative. She's been training here for 6 years and has the technical foundation judges expect. But you're welcome to audition independently. There it was. The line is drawn in silk but sharp as wire. Maya would be the face in the brochure, the story in the newsletter, the girl who proved the academy cared. But when it came to the stage that mattered, she would watch from the wings. We'll need an answer by Monday, Marcus added. The press interest won't last forever, and we'd like to coordinate messaging while the momentum is strong. Carmen stood. We need to discuss this as a family. Whitmore rose as well, extending her hand. Of course. Take the weekend. But Maya, she fixed her gaze on the girl still seated. Opportunities like this don't come around often. I hope you'll recognize what we're offering. They left the office in silence. As they walked down the hallway, Maya noticed something that made her stop. On the wall near the main staircase hung a new poster. Her face, mid-turn, pulled from Harper's video. Above it, bold letters. Westridge Academy, where every voice dances. Below, smaller text, celebrating excellence in all its forms. Her image was there, larger than life, backlit, inspirational, but her name was nowhere to be found. Maya stared at it for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone and took a picture of the poster, the flash reflecting off the glass like an accusation. Carmen touched her shoulder gently. "Mija, let's go home." As they walked toward the exit, Maya's phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another 1,000 strangers forming opinions about a girl they'd never met. A struggle they'd never understand. A system they'd never have to question. The video had made her visible, but visibility, she was learning, was not the same as being seen. The mockery started on Sunday evening, precisely when Maya's acceptance of the Academy's offer hit their social media channels. The official post featured the same image from the hallway poster, her mid-turn, face determined, body suspended in motion. The caption celebrated breaking down barriers and opening doors. Within an hour, the parody videos began. The first one showed a girl in her bedroom wearing rubber gloves and a mop bucket on her head, attempting spins and collapsing dramatically. Caption: "When you think watching dance moms makes you a professional," 17,000 likes. Another featured a group of girls at what looked like a country club, one of them stumbling through exaggerated movements, while others threw dollar bills at her feet. POV: "You're the charity case at the fancy dance school." 23,000 likes. By Monday morning, the hashtag #JustMopBucketBallet was trending in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Maya saw them during lunch period at her public high school, Roosevelt Prep, where she'd spent the last 3 years as a relatively anonymous student. Now people pointed, whispered. A few classmates showed her the videos with performative sympathy. "That's so messed up." While barely hiding their entertainment, she made it through the day by going numb, a trick she'd learned years ago when kids made fun of her mother's work uniform during parent-teacher conferences. Tuesday was worse. Someone had created a filter that superimposed a mop and bucket onto dance videos. It was being used thousands of times, mostly by teenagers who'd never met Maya, never been to Westridge, never thought twice about where cruelty landed. By Wednesday, Maya stopped checking her phone entirely. Thursday afternoon, she showed up for her first provisional observation session at Westridge. The advanced contemporary class was already warming up when she entered. A few dancers glanced her way, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled judgment. Vanessa stood at the bar with perfect posture, pointedly not looking in Maya's direction. Miss Rodriguez, the instructor, acknowledged her with a professional nod. "Maya, you're welcome to observe from the side. Please don't interrupt the flow of class." Maya found a spot near the corner, sitting on the floor with her notebook. Just like before, except now everyone knew she was there. The class ran through combinations. Maya watched, trying to focus on the technique, but she could feel the weight of attention pressing against her skin. Two girls near the front whispered to each other, one glancing back with a smirk. Harper was recording again, not secretly this time, but openly, documenting her practice session for her followers. The camera panned across the studio, deliberately lingering on Maya in the corner. When class ended, Maya stayed seated, waiting for everyone to leave before attempting her own practice. But Vanessa approached, Riley and Harper flanking her like sentries. "Can we talk?" Vanessa asked, her tone falsely pleasant. Maya looked up but didn't stand. "About what?" Vanessa crouched down to eye level, a gesture that might have seemed kind, if not for the edge in her voice. "I just want to make sure there are no hard feelings. But the competition, I mean. You understand the Academy can only send one official representative, and that's based on years of training, not viral moments," Riley added. "It's nothing personal. It's just how these things work." "Right," Maya said flatly. Harper's phone was definitely recording now, though she held it casually at her side. "We're actually happy you're here. Diversity is important." The word landed like a slap disguised as a compliment. "I didn't come here for diversity points," Maya said, her voice low. I came here to dance. Vanessa stood, brushing invisible dust from her leggings. Of course, and you'll get to, eventually. Once you've learned the proper foundations. She paused at the door. Oh, and Maya, you might want to stay off social media for a while. People can be cruel online. They left, their laughter echoing down the hallway. Maya sat alone in the empty studio, the mirrors reflecting a girl who suddenly looked very small. Her hands trembled as she opened her notebook, but the diagrams blurred in front of her eyes. She stood abruptly, grabbed her backpack and walked out, not toward the exit, but toward the back stairwell that led to the storage area where her mother kept supplies. Carmen was restocking paper towels in the utility closet when Maya found her. One look at her daughter's face, and she set down the boxes. "Misha, they're making fun of me," Maya whispered, the words finally breaking free. "Not just here, everywhere. Thousands of people I don't even know are laughing at me. At us, at you." Carmen pulled her into the small closet and closed the door behind them, the cramped space suddenly feeling like the only safe place in the building. "They made videos," Maya continued, voice cracking, "with mops and buckets. They're calling it Charity Case Ballet, and the worst part is," she pressed her palms against her eyes, "the Academy knows. They have to know, and they're not saying anything because they got what they wanted. My face on their diversity page, my story in their newsletter. But they don't actually want me to succeed." Carmen held her daughter's shoulders firmly. "Listen to me. Those people are laughing because they're afraid. Afraid of what? I'm nobody. You're somebody who showed them that talent doesn't belong to people with money. That scared them, so they're trying to make you small again." Maya pulled away, sliding down to sit on the floor between mop buckets and cleaning solution bottles. "Maybe I am small. Maybe I was stupid to think I could compete with girls who've had professional training since they were 5. Maybe watching from the corner is all I'll ever—" "Stop!" Carmen's voice was sharp. "I did not raise you to shrink. Then what am I supposed to do?" Maya looked up, tears finally spilling over. "The audition is in 3 days, and everyone expects me to fail. Even if I'm good, they'll find a way to say it doesn't count, that it's not real ballet, that I'm just a janitor's daughter playing dress-up." Carmen knelt down, eye level with her daughter, in the cramped closet that smelled of lemon cleaner and possibility. "Do you want to know what your grandmother told me the day I stopped dancing?" she asked. "She said, 'Mija, when they close the doors, you dance through the walls.'" Maya wiped her face with the back of her hand. Carmen reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn envelope. "I was saving this for your 16th birthday, but I think you need it now." Inside was a photograph. A young woman in a handmade dress, mid-leap in what looked like a community center, her face lit with pure joy. Maya's grandmother decades ago, dancing like the room belonged to her, on the back, written in faded ink, "They don't get to decide what's worthy. You do." Maya stared at the photograph for a long moment, then carefully tucked it into her notebook. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. Carmen stood, offering her hand. "Then let's find out together." That night, Maya opened her laptop and began searching for something she'd been too afraid to consider. Independent registration for the regional competition. Not as a Westridge student, not as anyone's diversity initiative. Just like herself, the registration fee was higher for independents, $150. She had 87 left after her initial audition payment. She would need to find a way. But for the first time in days, the crushing weight on her chest loosened just enough to breathe. Maya found the money in 3 days through a combination of desperation and determination. She sold her old laptop to a pawn shop for $40. She babysat for the neighbor's twins on Friday night, earning $30. She asked her grandmother in San Antonio for help and received $25 in a card that arrived Saturday morning with a note, "Para mis sueños," for my dreams. On Saturday afternoon, she walked into the competition registration office downtown, cash in hand, and filled out the forms. Under studio affiliation, she wrote, "Independent." The woman processing registrations looked up with mild surprise. You're not with a dance school? No, ma'am. Do you have a choreographer? A coach? Maya hesitated. I'm working with my family. The woman shrugged and stamped the form. Auditions are next Saturday, March 15th at the Worthington Theatre. 2-minute solo, any style. Good luck. Maya walked out with a confirmation number and a knot of anxiety in her stomach that wouldn't untie. That evening, she and Carmen cleared the furniture in their small living room, pushing the couch against the wall and rolling up the worn area rug to expose the hardwood floor beneath. It wasn't a studio. There was no mirror, no bar, no expensive sound system, just a Bluetooth speaker connected to Carmen's phone and 20 square feet of space. Show me what you've been working on, Carmen said. Maya ran through the piece she'd been developing, the one she'd performed in Studio C that first day. But now, with the audition approaching and stakes crystallizing into something real, every movement felt insufficient. Her turns were shaky. Her extensions lacked confidence. She stopped halfway through, frustrated. It's not good enough, she said, breathing hard. Vanessa's been training for this her whole life. She'll have custom choreography, professional coaching, probably a costume that costs more than our rent. Carmen sat on the edge of the couch, watching her daughter with the patience of someone who understood that fear often disguised itself as inadequacy. Then stop trying to beat her at her game, Carmen said quietly. Play yours. What does that mean? Carmen stood and walked to the center of the floor. You've been dancing like you're trying to prove you belong in their world. But what if you brought them into yours? She began to move, not classical ballet, but something older, rooted deeper. Her feet traced patterns that came from cumbia and conjunto, from the dance halls of South Texas, where her own mother had taught her. Her hips swayed with a rhythm that didn't apologize for existing outside traditional technique. This is where you come from, Carmen said, still moving. Not just me. Your grandmother, her mother, women who danced to survive, to celebrate, to remember who they were when the world tried to make them forget. Maya watched, transfixed. You don't have their money or their training, Carmen continued, but you have something they'll never have. A story that didn't start in a studio with mirrors and bars. It started in kitchens and community centers, in places where dance was prayer, not performance. She stopped, slightly out of breath, and looked at her daughter. So stop performing. Start praying. Something shifted in Maya's understanding. She stepped forward and began to move again, but this time she let the turns be less precise. Let her spine curve in ways that felt natural rather than prescribed. She added a shoulder shimmy her grandmother used to do, a stomp that echoed the zapateado she'd seen at quinceañeras. Carmen smiled. There she is. They worked through the night, blending what Maya had learned through observation with what lived in her blood. Classical lines melted into folk rhythms. Precision gave way to feeling. By midnight, they had something that didn't look like anything the judges would expect, and that was exactly the point. Sunday morning, Maya received an unexpected visitor. Miss Rodriguez appeared at their apartment door, looking uncomfortable in jeans and a casual jacket, the first time Maya had seen her outside the academy. I heard you registered independently, the instructor said after Carmen invited her in. I wanted to make sure you knew what you were doing. I'm doing what I have to, Maya replied carefully. Miss Rodriguez nodded slowly. I also wanted to apologize. I should have said something when the girls were recording you, when they cornered you after class. I stayed quiet because, she paused, choosing words carefully, because speaking up at Westridge has consequences. But watching what they did to you online, what the academy let happen, silence has consequences too. She pulled a small flash drive from her pocket. This has recordings of the advanced combinations from this semester, not to copy, to study. I also wrote some notes on what judges typically look for in contemporary solos. She set it on the coffee table. You have raw talent, Maya, more than most students I've taught. But talent alone won't be enough. You need to be undeniable. After she left, Maya plugged in the drive and found hours of footage, meticulously labeled. along with a document titled Regional Competition, What They Don't Tell You. Carmen looked over her daughter's shoulder. You're not as alone as you thought. Over the next 5 days, Maya transformed their living room into a laboratory. She studied Miss Rodriguez's notes, practiced until her muscles screamed, adjusted and refined until the piece felt like truth rather than technique. She sewed her own costume from fabric Carmen bought at a discount store, deep burgundy with gold embroidery borrowed from a dress her grandmother had worn to her own wedding. The stitching was uneven in places, but it held. On Friday night, the evening before auditions, Maya stood in front of the bathroom mirror in her completed costume. She looked nothing like the Westridge dancers in their expensive performance wear. She looked like herself, a girl who'd learned to dance in the margins and was ready to claim the center. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Good luck tomorrow. You're going to need it. Maya deleted it without responding. She had stopped performing for their approval. Now she was dancing for something bigger than any of them could diminish. The Worthington. Theater had seen decades of performances, Broadway tours, symphony orchestras, high school graduations. But on this Saturday afternoon in March, it hosted something different. The regional youth dance competition drew 17 competitors, their families, and a panel of 5 judges seated in the orchestra section with clipboards and score sheets. Maya arrived with Carmen at 1:30 p.m., 30 minutes before her scheduled audition slot. The backstage area buzzed with nervous energy, dancers stretching, parents offering last-minute encouragement, instructors giving final notes to their students. Vanessa was there with her mother, Eleanor Montgomery, a woman in her early 50s, wearing designer athleisure and oversized sunglasses despite being indoors. A professional choreographer hovered nearby, reviewing timing cues. Vanessa's costume was custom-made, white with strategic cutouts and crystalline beading that caught the light with every movement. She looked like she cost money. When Vanessa spotted Maya, something flickered across her face. Not quite fear, but recognition that the landscape had shifted since that Thursday in Studio C. Good luck, Vanessa said, her tone carefully neutral. Maya nodded once but didn't respond. The auditions began at 2 p.m. sharp. Competitors were called in roster order, each given exactly 2 minutes on stage. Maya was number 14. Vanessa was number 3. When Vanessa's name echoed through the sound system, Maya watched from the wings. The Westridge dancer took her position center stage with the confidence of someone who'd been prepared for this moment since childhood. The music began, a contemporary piece with sweeping strings and dramatic builds. What followed was technically flawless. Every turn hit its mark. Every leap achieved maximum extension. Every arm movement traced precise angles. Vanessa's body moved like an instrument perfectly tuned, executing choreography designed to showcase difficulty without risk. The judges wrote notes steadily throughout. When she finished, the applause was respectful, professional. A few audience members stood briefly before sitting again. Vanessa bowed, her smile controlled, and exited stage left. Maya watched her disappear into the hallway, surrounded immediately by her mother and choreographer offering congratulations. 11 more dancers performed. Some were good, others struggled. One girl's music cut out mid-performance, forcing her to finish in silence. Another fell during a turn sequence and couldn't recover. By the time they called number 14, the energy in the theater had settled into a rhythm of polite observation. Next performer, Maya Reeves. Independent. The word independent seemed to echo longer than her name. Maya walked onto the stage in her hand-sewn costume, her grandmother's embroidery catching the stage lights. She wore simple jazz shoes, not point shoes, not the expensive contemporary footwear other dancers had. Just black canvas and rubber soles that had seen her through hundreds of hours of practice on hardwood floors. She took her position center stage. The lights were hotter than she'd expected. The theater seemed vast from this angle, filled with faces she couldn't quite distinguish. In the third row, she spotted Carmen sitting alone, hands clasped tightly in her lap. The music began. a piece she and her mother had chosen together. It started with solo acoustic guitar, slow and deliberate, before building into something that incorporated both classical strings and the rhythmic percussion of conjunto music. Maya began to move. The first 8 counts were pure contemporary, controlled, grounded, showing the judges she understood the foundation. Her movements were precise without being mechanical, each position held just long enough to prove she could, before flowing into the next. Then the music shifted, and so did she. Her shoulders rolled in a way that referenced generations of women who danced at family gatherings. Her hips swayed with a rhythm that didn't apologize for existing outside classical vocabulary. She dropped into a low lunge that transitioned into a turn sequence, 3 rotations that ended with her arms extended like wings. In the audience, someone leaned forward. She moved across the diagonal in a series of leaps that combined ballet technique with the grounded power of folk dance. Each landing was deliberate, each rise organic. She wasn't floating above the floor, she was claiming it, stamping her presence into the stage with every step. The music built. Maya's movements became more urgent, more passionate. A spin that started controlled and ended wild. A floor sequence that looked like falling, but was actually flying. She rose through a contraction that rippled, through her spine like water finding its course. One of the judges stopped writing and simply watched. The final moments were quiet again, Maya standing center stage, one arm reaching toward the lights, the other pressed against her heart. The music faded to a single guitar note that hung in the air like a question, then silence. Maya held her position, breathing hard but controlled, waiting for the applause that would signal she could bow and exit. It didn't come. Not immediately. The silence stretched for 3 seconds, then 5. Maya's heart hammered. Had she failed so completely that no one knew how to respond? Then someone in the back of the theater stood. Then another. Then a judge, the woman in the center, Dr. Patricia Chen. A former principal dancer with the Houston Ballet rose from her seat. Her clipboard forgotten on the chair. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was erupting, building, rolling through the theater like thunder. More people stood, then more. The woman next to Carmen was crying. A man in the balcony whistled. All 5 judges were on their feet. Maya stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. This wasn't supposed to. Judges didn't give standing ovations at auditions. That wasn't protocol. That wasn't how this worked, but they were standing anyway. Backstage, Vanessa watched from the wings, her face pale, her perfectly manicured hands clenched at her sides. Maya finally remembered to bow. When she rose, the applause hadn't diminished. She bowed again, deeper this time, then walked off stage on legs that barely held her. Carmen met her in the hallway and pulled her into an embrace that smelled like home. "You did it," her mother whispered. "Not for them, for you." But in the theater's administrative office, a different conversation was unfolding. Eleanor Montgomery stood before the competition director, arms crossed, voice tight with controlled anger. That performance was not traditional contemporary dance. There were folk elements, ethnic movements. Is this competition evaluating technical merit or making political statements? The competition director, a weary man named Gerald Stevens, sighed. "Mrs. Montgomery, the judges evaluate what they see, and what they saw was exceptional. Then perhaps the judging criteria need review," Eleanor said coldly. "Westridge Academy contributes significantly to this competition. I trust our concerns will be taken seriously." She left before he could respond. Outside, Maya sat on a bench with her mother, still trembling from adrenaline. Her phone buzzed with a text from Miss Rodriguez. I watched from the back. "You were magnificent." Then another notification appeared, a news alert. The performance had already been recorded by someone in the audience and shared online. The video was beginning to spread, but this time Maya didn't open it. She already knew what she'd done. And for the first time in her life, that was enough. The deliberation lasted 43 minutes, longer than any judging session in the competition's 12-year history. Maya sat in the theater lobby with Carmen, watching other dancers and their families filter out, some celebrating, others consoling. Through the closed doors of the auditorium, muffled voices rose and fell in what sounded like an argument. Vanessa stood near the water fountain with her mother, both of them rigid with tension. Eleanor Montgomery's phone was pressed to her ear, her voice low but sharp. Whatever conversation she was having, it wasn't going well. At 4:47 p.m., the doors finally opened. Gerald Stevens, the competition director, emerged looking exhausted. Behind him came the 5 judges, their expressions unreadable. "We're ready to announce results," Stevens said, his voice carrying through the lobby. "Could all remaining competitors please return to the theater?" Maya's stomach dropped. Carmen squeezed her hand once, firmly, then released it. They filed back into the auditorium, Maya, Vanessa, and 3 other finalists who'd been held for final consideration. The judges sat at a table on the stage, microphones positioned in front of them. Dr. Patricia Chen, the former Houston Ballet principal, sat in the center. Stevens took the podium. This year's competition showcased exceptional talent. The judges have deliberated carefully, and while all finalists demonstrated remarkable skill, one performance stood out not just for technical proficiency, but for artistic innovation and emotional authenticity. Eleanor Montgomery's jaw tightened. The grand prize, including the full scholarship to the Juilliard Summer, intensive and performance opportunities with the Dallas Contemporary Dance Company goes to... Stevens paused, glancing at his notes. Maya Reeves, independent. The lobby erupted. Not with polite applause, but with genuine celebration. Carmen gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Maya stood frozen, unable to process the words she'd just heard. Dr. Chen took the microphone. "I'd like to say something, if I may." The room quieted. "In my 30 years as a dancer and educator, I've witnessed technical perfection many times. It's impressive, certainly. But what we saw today from Ms. Reeves was something rarer, a fusion of discipline and soul, technique and truth. She didn't dance to impress us. She danced to express something authentic. That's what art is supposed to be." She looked directly at Maya. "You reminded us why we fell in love with dance in the first place." "Thank you." Vanessa stood abruptly and walked out of the theater, her mother following. But before Eleanor left, she turned back, her voice cutting through the celebration. "This decision will be reviewed. A legal team will be examining whether competition standards were properly applied." Dr. Chen's expression didn't change. "Mrs. Montgomery, your daughter is technically excellent. But excellence isn't just about perfection. It's about moving people. And your daughter's performance, while admirable, didn't do that. Miss Reeves's did. That's not politics. That's art." Eleanor left without responding. In the following days, the aftermath unfolded in waves. The performance video went viral again, but this time, the narrative had shifted. Instead of mockery, there was celebration. Dance professionals began dissecting Maya's technique, praising the way she'd blended styles without losing control. Cultural commentators wrote about the importance of diverse voices in traditionally exclusive spaces. On Tuesday, Westridge Academy released a statement. "We are proud that Maya Reeves participated in our provisional program and congratulate her on this achievement." Maya read it on her phone and laughed bitterly. Participated, as if observing from the corner, was the same as training. But that afternoon, something unexpected happened. Director Whitmore called Carmen's cell phone directly and asked for a meeting, this time at their apartment. She arrived Wednesday evening, notably without Marcus Webb or any PR team. Just her, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing an expression that suggested humility didn't come naturally. "I owe you both an apology," Whitmore began after Carmen offered her coffee. "We used Maya's image to benefit the Academy while denying her the resources to actually succeed. That was wrong." Maya sat on the couch, arms crossed, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "I'm here to offer something different," Whitmore continued. "Not observation. Full enrollment. Access to all classes, all facilities, all resources. Tuition waived, of course. But more than that, I'd like Carmen to join our staff." Carmen's eyebrows rose. As custodial supervisor? As a dance instructor, Whitmore clarified. We're launching a new program, cultural fusion dance, contemporary technique blended with traditional folk styles from various backgrounds. You'd develop the curriculum and teach alongside our existing faculty. The room went silent. Maya found her voice first. Why now? Because I won. Whitmore met her gaze. Partially, yes. But also because Dr. Chen called me personally and explained in detail how we failed you. She said if institutions like ours don't change, we'll become museums. And she's right. Carmen looked at her daughter. Maya looked back. An entire conversation passed between them without words. We'll think about it, Carmen said finally. Whitmore nodded, set down a folder with formal offer letters, and left. After she was gone, Maya opened the folder. The salary for Carmen was more than she currently made as custodial staff. The enrollment agreement for Maya had no restrictions, no observation-only clauses. What do you think? Carmen asked. Maya walked to the window, looking out at their neighborhood, modest homes, cars that had seen better years. Families like theirs trying to build something from little, I think, she said slowly. That we didn't fight this hard just to go back to performing for their approval. If we do this, it has to be on our terms. Teaching other kids like me. Making sure the next Maya doesn't have to watch from the corner. Carmen smiled. Then that's what we'll tell them. 3 months later, Westridge Academy announced the Cultural Fusion Dance program with full-page ads in regional arts publications. The promotional photo showed Carmen teaching a class of diverse students, Maya among them, not as a token, but as a participant in something genuinely new. The program's first showcase took place in June. Maya performed a piece she'd choreographed herself, teaching it to 5 other students from backgrounds similar to hers. When they took the stage together, the audience saw something that hadn't existed before, proof that excellence could wear many faces and speak many languages. Vanessa was in the audience that night. She'd withdrawn from Westridge and transferred to a different academy, but she'd come to watch. When Maya finished performing, Vanessa stood, not first, but genuinely. Their eyes met across the theater. Vanessa nodded once, a small gesture that acknowledged something words couldn't capture. After the showcase, a girl around 12 years old approached Maya shyly. She wore a faded t-shirt and shoes that had been taped together at the sole. I saw you dance at regionals, the girl said quietly. My mom cleans offices downtown, she said. She said maybe I could try too. Maya knelt down to eye level. What's your name? Sophia. Sophia, I'm going to tell you what my grandmother told me. They don't get to decide what's worthy. You do. She pulled out a notebook, the same spiral notebook she'd carried for years. Here, start drawing the steps you see. Write down what you feel. And when you're ready, we'll find you a place to dance. The girl took the notebook like it was made of gold. Carmen watched from across the room, tears in her eyes. That night, as they drove home through Fort Worth's glittering downtown, Maya's phone buzzed with messages, interview requests, performance offers, college scouts. She glanced at them briefly, then put the phone away. You're not going to answer? Carmen asked. Later, Maya said. Right now, I just want to remember what this feels like. What does it feel like? Maya looked out at the city lights, reflecting in the windshield. Like I'm not dancing for anyone's approval anymore. Not even my own. I'm just dancing. Carmen reached over and squeezed her hand. The mirrors had never lied. They'd shown Maya every flaw, every stumble, every moment of doubt. But they'd also shown her something else. A girl who refused to disappear, who turned invisibility into presence, who danced not because she was allowed to, but because stopping was never an option. And now, reflected in those same mirrors, she saw something new, not just a dancer, but a doorway. For every Sophia who'd been told to watch from the corner, for every mother who cleaned floors while dreaming of stages, for every person who'd been labeled not good enough by systems that confused privilege with talent. Maya had cracked that system wide open, and the light pouring through would never be contained again. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.